So after that, you know, things started to go further. There, you know, there was like the influence of textiles and just the environment. And then I did a few more residencies through the next several years, but the next 3 or 4 were pretty much in the West here. Like, let's see, I went to Oregon, Playa, in Oregon. I did Long Beach, Oysterville, and Joshua Tree was really great in California. I spent some time on Lopez Island. So I had like quite a variety, and Wyoming. So there was a lot of landscape with that. And I feel like in some ways I've kind of come back to landscape with these pieces a little, or even interiors, architecture, kind of that, without necessarily trying to make something like represent anything necessarily. So these kind of came about, this particular body of work in the past year. I did some smaller pieces in a similar manner, but I had freestanding sculptures as well. I had someone, he commissioned a piece, and he said, I want something that's like a combination of these tile pieces and your driftwood sculptures. So, and it kind of went from there. And then I wanted to add a little more sculptural elements to the pieces. And that's kind of what you see here. So what else can I tell you about my work? Most of the material, the painted material is like little wood panels that I usually hold them in one hand. I would do small paintings and it's just kind of standing around like this and then setting them on a ledge in my studio. And I don't know what they're going to become. They become components as they're assembled, like just little, kind of just set them up on a ledge and then let them sit there for a while I'm doing other things, and then one will catch me and it'll look like something that's forming. So then I'll bring it to my table and I'll start adding, and it'll grow into something. It'll get bigger. And these usually start that way, and they can start from like just a few pieces and grow outward. And I think I mentioned this in the interview that's online, but they don't have a set boundary in the beginning like a painting on canvas would have. There's no boundary like that. The boundary is basically when I've decided it's big enough, maybe, or you know, when I get to that place, and then I frame around it to finish it. So, and they change a lot in the process. There's a lot of moving pieces, as you can see, up until the end. So, yeah. What else? What else do you want to know? Questions? Yeah.
I have two. One, where in Oregon did you go? And two, where do you get your wood pieces?
Okay. I went to Summer Lake. It's called Playa, and it's kind of like you're coming up from like the Deschutes Forest down, and you're heading almost into the deserts now. Like, yeah. So it's like along the route that people take to get to Burning Man, like is right through there. So it's kind of dry, but also like it's still foothills. So, and there's like a crust. It's not really a lake. It's like if you walk out to the lake, you'll get stuck in this mud. It's really messy. Like I couldn't get my boot out of the mud. But the thing about it though is the atmosphere is so amazing because of the dust that blows up. So like talk about like pink sunsets, or just the sky quality was just something else, you know. At times. The panels vary. Some pieces are just, I scavenge, I find things. And
Sometimes I have to buy material, and sometimes it's like, I usually use just that, it's like a chipboard masonite 1/4 kind of thing. And I've painted on that for years when I did my other paintings, like I painted on panels. So I'm comfortable with it. And I used to do really tiny paintings that I were sold as, just tiny paintings. So I'm comfortable with painting on little pieces like that. And a lot of but what happened, like as these were developing, I was working on paintings on canvas, and they were like, especially Playa Lake. I had this one large painting that was kind of what I needed to do while I was there. But when I wanted to stop, I would have like a lot of paint left, and I would start piling up these panels. And sometimes it was just like a playful, like, okay, like, and then I would just start a little painting, or just a blob of color. And then they'd set those aside. And that's how these kind of evolved, is them coming together later. And always collecting things when I went on walks, like just little tiny twigs and pieces of metal or something like that, little rocks or something. So yeah. Yeah. Well, they lay flat, and I can to be really careful not to move them very much. But it's really, really labor intensive, because you can have most of it laid out, and if I forget to take a picture of it and take it apart to move it to its next, then they're going to go on a panel. I was just explaining this to a friend of mine this morning. Then they go on their next panel, so they all get removed, and then I put them on this panel, and then I figure out the sizing for that, because I want it to be just a little smaller, so it's just holding them up, And then they're going to go into the frame. So I've moved them on. Now I've taken them off. I put them back on the panel. Then I've like sized my panel. Now I've cut my panel. I take them off again. Then I put them back on the panel. Now they're ready, and I use adhesive. I use silicone to put them on just in case I decide I don't like it, because I can like lift that off without destroying it. So, and then I have to, now that's the really hard part. And I always have to photograph whatever I've done as I go along, because if it gets moved, I don't remember. Like, I won't know how it's happened too, and I lose things. I just like, okay, well, this is how it's going to go now. So it's a bandsaw with a really small blade, an 1/8 inch blade. So I can do that. It's a lot like drawing, but you're using a saw, to cut the shapes. So especially with the frames. Because after I've established what the interior is, this inside panel, now I've got to make the frame, right? So now I'm going to lay this panel. It's all glued. I don't have to worry anymore. Put it down, and then trace on another piece of plywood what that outside, what the frame's going to be. And then it's always kind of like, might not be perfect. It's not, but it's kind of like, I'm just following the line I drew with the saw. So it's like, there's a lot of finesse with trying to do that. And I can't cut, I have to cut an edge, and put it together, and then I'm gonna do the next, after that is gonna be the next layer, and it's in line with the top of the frame, and they get glued together, and then that just lays in. But then I have to figure out how to get this to attach to its frame. And so I always have to leave enough of these little tiles unglued, so I can take them off, because now I've got to put a screw in behind the panel to get the whole piece to stay in the frame. It's a lot. But then I have to make it so that these little pieces can be removed in case you have to get it out. So I use little dowels to hold that's what these little red dots are little dowels that are just holding that piece in. And then there's another hole that goes all the way through the piece so that if you have to take it apart, you can poke like a pen through there to push the panel out and then unscrew it. Because I think about stuff like that. Like if I change my mind and I don't like the piece and I want to take it apart, if it falls or somebody buys it and it gets broken, if I can't take it apart, I can't fix it, you know, like, anyway, so it's just like trying to think about that. And having been an art handler and working in the arts, I think about stuff like that. Like what happens if it breaks? How do we fix it, you know? So just engineering, right? Yeah. Yeah.
So you told me the other day how you cut the painted plywoods are just around the edges.
Yeah. There's usually one consistent piece backing the, I would say, I'm trying to make them so they're not so heavy. So I would I like the back piece of plywood, that layer doesn't have to be solid, but the piece that's supporting the piece that's on a thin panel is solid, a solid piece. So there's like layers and layers, and then cutting that.
So
I can't even.
I think that a lot of people would look at this and think of it as assemblage. To me, they look more like collage.
I would say that they're all of those things, because I think a lot about when I was making these, how much they are collage, like just the process. And one of the things I really like about making these is how you can turn things around so quickly and have a different perspective. And I find like with paintings, because you're just like, you know, you're putting paint on a canvas, and I know there's a lot of tricks to getting like your brain to work a certain way with that. But like you can, with an oil painting, like I can't like have made a mark or a big area of it and then suddenly like take the whole thing and turn it upside down. I'd have to just repaint it, right? So that's kind of fun with collage or this kind of thing. Yeah. So.
Are you thinking when you're making them about depth a lot?
I do. I've been liking them getting a little thicker. Like I like that they're sort of sculptural from the wall. Like they have a bit of depth. And I have to say I really love plywood. I love the way it looks, the layers on plywood. So I like the look of it. And does that answer, am I answering you?
It's sort of a different question, actually. It's more like perspective kind of depth.
What do you mean?
Like pictorial depth.
Oh, like, okay, do I think about that, like going into it? I do, yeah, yeah. Like them being like a painting with an illusion, is that what you mean, of perspective?
Some of them have more of that than others.
Right,
I'm
yeah.
wondering how you think about it.
Yeah, I don't really know how I don't know how to answer that, honestly. Like, I think it's always just a dialogue with the piece, and it's like, I just kind of go, oh, I like that. Or like it's telling me where it wants to be. Like, that makes it really great for me. Like, just, that's a really nice, instead of me saying, this is the way, like I have this preconceived idea of what I want this piece of art to look like. I don't do that. I do a little, but the actual making of it changes, like in that process. Because especially with these, like I'm gonna go to this one, if that's okay. Like, 'cause this one's big, right? So when you're like, to look at the whole thing, I have to, first of all, it's laying flat. I can't put it on the wall. So I get on my little like step stool and I photograph it. And then I can like put it on like my iPad and like look at it in my hand and get it tiny so I can get that far away from it so I can see what it's doing. And then sometimes I will take that and go into like my Procreate app and work it, but I'm really bad at Procreate. It's very crude, but I can kind of like give myself a blueprint of where I might want it to go. And then I'll take that down to my studio. But what happens is when you get into these little pieces, you start to see things in the pieces, and then you're not really following your plan anymore, but you kind of have an idea. So it doesn't, because it's not copying like, my plan really, because the material is telling me to do something a little different. So there's just kind of a subtle shift. Like it's a little of both, but like I remember, I think it was like one of these sides, I kind of had this plan, and it just, as soon as I started working with materials, it just went a whole nother way. So I don't know what's gonna happen. And I love that, so. Yeah, yeah.
What was your thought behind this piece? Because to me, it looks like, I don't know, farmland. What was your idea there?
I don't know. I started to think about it, like the title egress. I started thinking about it as kind of like an exit, or like you're in some like room. Like I was thinking like a study or some kind of room, and it has this crazy floor, and there's a stairway, and it's leading outside to somewhat surreal looking landscape, maybe. Yeah. Oh,
Could you talk about the use of gold and silver in your work?
the gold leaf? Oh, okay. Yeah. When did I start doing that? I think a while ago. I think it was like playing around with gold spray paint. And then one of my friends said, why don't you try using some metal leaf? And so I started trying that. And then I realized that I was also playing with beeswax just because I like the material. But then I started to put the gold leaf on the beeswax, and it gave it this really like kind of liquid gold look, because there's that smooth anyway. But what I started to realize with working with the gold is that it's mutable, like it changes in the light. And I can't control what it's gonna do really within a composition. So sometimes it's like right now that I don't know what angle you have of like the yellow piece, but there's a little gold piece right in the middle. And if there's no light, like when I had it like in the corner of the room with no direct light, the gold is just like completely lit up, but the color of the piece is not as much, right? I just love that, like that it was kind of communicating from the dark in a way, which I think I mentioned. Should I go into that? I was saying in my artist statement that I was brought up Catholic, and we always had to go to church on Sunday, and there was always the Stations of the Cross that were in the aisles on either side, and some of those old churches, so it's pretty kind of dark or dimly lit, but from like peripherally, the halos on the saints, they were sort of glowing like on the sidelines, and it was kind of cool. Like they would catch your eye, but they weren't the main attraction necessarily, but that they kind of did the holy trick on you, which is really what I think is the cool thing. Like, I don't care about the religion so much, and especially that one for me, but it was like, yeah, but they got a lot of cool, like, gold things in these, and they have like this really good music on Christmas, and they got a trumpet player, just everything, and there's the reliquary, like
all this weird magic stuff the priest had. And I'm like, what? Like, it's really fascinating, right? Because, well, it's part of their like smoke and mirrors, you know? So I kind of like that. And I was like, that's kind of what's cool about it. Like, not the like, well, I won't get into the stuff I don't like, but yeah. So anyway, yeah. Does that answer the question? And gold is really, I also said this is like, I'm not obsessed with gold, and I certainly don't I don't like the Donald Trump association with gold. That's not, but I went to this mineral and gemstone show at LA County Natural History Museum years ago, and this show was incredible. But they had this whole thing about gold, and they had like gold nuggets, but like how like thin it's like it can be compressed smaller than any other metal. And I just thought that was amazing that like you could probably take a gold nugget and like spread it out a mile. It can be flattened to small. It could be smaller than a virus, like kind of amazing. And I like the symbolism of gold is like illumination, like and enlightenment. I like kind of all the stuff that goes with it. So, yeah.
What brought you to Seattle?
Oh gosh. I just thought I used to read National Geographic constantly when I was a kid. I don't know, those of a certain age group, our fathers got National Geographic, and like, I remember seeing Seattle in it, and they had the police had bicycles, and just it looked beautiful. And I was a little kid, and I liked it. And then I had some friends that moved here, and I followed them and that kind of thing. I didn't really know anyone here. I just thought it sounded cool. There's no reason, like rational, like I just wanted to get out of Cincinnati maybe. So yeah, I grew up there and just wanted, just a change from the conservative Catholic place. So it's a beautiful city, but I don't mean it that way, but yeah. So not a particular reason, except it seemed really beautiful here. And I wanted to be part of it. I think the West Coast intrigued me too, so yeah.
You lived in Morocco?
I did a month-long artist residency there.
Enjoy the tile? Do you spend?
Yeah. We stayed in this little town called the artist residency is in this place called Tetuan, and it's like Morocco is so big, but it's like their arts and crafts city. Like that's what it's known for. So we visited like the art school there, which teaches them how to do all the plaster work and tiles and the geometry. And then they had just all kinds of arts and artisan things there. There was a tannery in the town, but yeah, I like the aesthetic, and it was just like once again, I loved like Arabic, like the language. Like I don't know what the letters mean, but they're really pretty. Like they're beautiful, and there's something about that kind of ignorance, But I liked the aesthetic of it. I also liked in that little town just the way people cobbled things together and made them work. Like we went to visit this potter that had his studio was on a hillside that had a lot of clay, and he just dug the clay out of the hillside. He had no electricity, and the whole thing, he took all these tarps and like made this big tarp tent where he worked, and his wheel was like used his foot for the wheel. How they make them on a little tilt so they spin well. It was kind of amazing. And he dug out his kiln in the hill too. Like he had wood fired, and he just made that work. He made tons and tons of vessels in this little tent, So.
Do you know your work out of touch?
Like, do I like? What do you mean? Do I think? Oh, that's an interesting. Yeah, well, I guess I'm more visual, but I like holding things, But I do think about that tactile, like having a tactile thing too, you know, like the things we like to pick up. Pieces of wood. I love the way like little old pieces of wood feel. They're like light and I don't know, kind of like that gray too. But that's interesting. Yeah, I like the way I use a lot of different wax. Like I just use beeswax a lot. I like the way that feels and looks. Like I can tell you, like like this has like a wax over silver leaf, so that I like it because the light hits that silver leaf, but it kind of just what's the word? It kind of mutes it in a way, like it. I don't know how to say that. Anyway, so that there's light under that, but it's not like a direct reflection. It's clouded. Yeah, yeah. So I think about light a lot, and I like there's little pieces. There was a painting I did a million years ago that had glitter in it, and I cut that up, and there's little pieces of it, and within some of these pieces, you know. So I like kind of finding just really little things like that that will catch my eye, you know, and integrating them.
I was going to say, I think the framing really sort of tenderizes that. They have like a lot of touch, you know, a touch maybe by the elements or by the hand, but they're really sweet.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
But I wanted to ask about like kind of spatial perception. I was thinking about like that, you know, that David Hockney series with the photographs, the pear blossom highway thing, where he collaged that one scene into all of these different
Uh-huh.
fractals, and you kind of describe that as like the way we see in a series of milliseconds, and it all
Oh,
comes
yeah.
together. You know, but I'm noticing all this articulation of space, you know, and particularly this latest. This isn't the latest one, right? Ingress.
Yeah, they're all kind of in the same.
It
Yeah.
feels really new,
Uh,
and it feels like a new direction.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And maybe it's because those negative or even the positive spaces in pink feel more like real, more substantive. And I just noticed there's a lot of moments in the painting, all of them, where you're sort of like put into deep space, and then you're brought back to not so much surface but substance.
Hmm.
You know, and I just wondered if you could talk a little bit about that.
I think I like this idea of kind of being in, like time being more fluid. Like I don't know why I went with time, because I think that's been on my mind recently, and like our perspectives. So there's a lot of like the way we remember things, or I feel like they're like can be little snapshots. But there's also this thing of like existing, like things existing at the same time from different, like everything, it all being fluid. It's like, okay, I'm gonna reference Janis Joplin, because there was where she was performing, it's on one of her albums, I remember it from when I was in college or something, where she's talking about time, like you're on the train, and like, she says something like, in fact, tomorrow never happens. But at the end of it, she says, it's all the same fucking day, man. Like, is saying that, you know, like we just record time, but it's all, you know, we're in this thing, you know, like, what is it? Like, I don't even know how to talk about it except to except to quote Janis Joplin. But yeah, I like the idea. I also like the idea of like, I was talking about this in my interview that you can find on Foster White about Deborah Butterfield's horse sculptures. Like my first encounter when I was like 20 years old with a piece, and it clearly was made out of like a swing set. You know, you could see all the stuff in it, but especially the horse's mouth,
like the jaw and that thing. And you could see the metal, and it was just ripped and folded, and it just so like perfectly a horse, like the horse's mouth, like. And at the same time, you could see exactly what it was made out of and what that was from. And it just blew my mind that I was like seeing these things like at the same time, right? I think about stuff like that, and maybe, I don't know.
It's very quantum.
Yeah, quantum-y. Yeah. And if you look up temporal reflection, I did not try to do this. If you look at it from a physics, and I am no expert on this, but I'm just going to say, if you look that up, you'll see that it's about kind of changing time or changing our perception of time in physics, that they figured out this way to reflect electromagnetic waves. And anyway, I still can't quite grasp it, but I like the idea of it. So, and like I said, it's out there somewhere, but I don't mind not really understanding it because I think that makes it kind of interesting.